Well, it's on this block about a year ago that we visited with Hoboken's neighbors and saw a flooding that had consumed this whole area. You couldn't see the street. Cars were drifting away. People couldn't get out of their homes. And it was one of those moments in which you always remember.
And throughout the state, people recall the moments they'll never forget and what it was like to live through the storm.
I don't relive the past, but you don't forget something like that. In the same way you don't forget 9/11. Never forget that day.
There was probably 3 feet of water outside of our apartment, and that was pretty much as far as the eye could see. It was that night that there was a kayak going down our street. And the next day I kind of thought maybe the power would come back, maybe the water would recede, and no, there was still about 3 feet of water the next day.
And in the weeks following the storm, life as they knew it had changed for thousands of people. People were cleaning the mess, gathering belongings, and living without power.
Just a shower. You don't recognize what a big deal a shower is until you haven't had one for a week.
And living without electricity was a reality for homeowners and businesses alike.
We kind of had to start from scratch and work from the bottom, clean everything. There was some points where we were in candlelight, trying to get everything back to normal, trying to get the facility up and running again.
Just blocks away from Andres' workplace in Hoboken lives Josh Adler and his family. His main living room and kitchen were completely destroyed. Over 4 feet of water covered these rooms. But somehow, in the midst of it all, there were small signs of hope.
This kitchen table, it's like the only piece of furniture that survived Sandy. It literally floated around our kitchen like a boat. We usually keep a water glass on the table, and I remember coming down after we got all the water out, and we saw the water was still sitting there, half filled. The glasses were half filled with water.
And while half-filled glasses of water are metaphorical signs of hope, the communities that came together were literal forces of strength.
I remember some of the great actions of individuals who were making a difference for their neighbors, like the woman who had lost everything in her basement apartment, and yet she was helping other Hoboken residents in a shelter, and she was leading the efforts at the shelter.
During the darkest days, people with power helped those without.
I remember they all ran extension cords out of their houses and ran power strips and pulled out all of their coffee makers and said, you know what, if you want a cup of coffee, come have a cup of coffee.
Neighbors helped neighbors, and people relied on one another.
There was definitely a sense of community within our small group of staff members. We were all here together. We all had candlelight. It wasn't just me. It was everybody.
In some cases, like for Julie Horace, strangers helped reunite families.
There was this one woman who knew a cop who was coming to pick her up, and she said, do you want a ride with us? And that was pretty much the only way to get from all the way west in Hoboken, where we were, to the higher ground, literally, where it was dry.
And although harrowing situations like this aren't there today, people remember the sights as they were right after the storm. People take the train every day that was once underwater, and now that it's a year later, many people are back to their everyday lives.
Eventually you get back to normal, and it just eventually just becomes a memory of just a bad time and something that you survived.
But for many people, the recovery goes on.
It's a lot of loss. It's a lot of loss. We've taken a really big hit here, and it's something we're still working to try to overcome today.
Josh's house is remodeled, but not all the homes in New Jersey are. People are still struggling 1 year later, but they have not been forgotten.
I just say to all of those New Jerseyans, hang in there, because we're going to continue to fight for you, and together we'll find a better day.